from the Outer Banks to outer space.
All right, let's go!
They accomplished the reality of flight, not through luck, or not because they were just bicycle makers, but because they were true geniuses of aerodynamics.
On December 17th, 1903, Orville and Wilbur Wright, the two bicycle makers from Dayton, Ohio, finally realized their dream. The Wright brothers had a ritual. They always took turns at the controls of their flying machine. On that cold December morning 85 years ago, it was Orville's turn. And at 10:35, after years of hard work, detailed planning, and yes, some frustration, the Wright brothers altered the course of history. December the 17th, 1988. Snowflakes were falling on this cold, windy day at Kill Devil Hills, North Carolina, the 85th anniversary of Orville and Wilbur Wright's historic first flight.
Thank you, and good morning, ladies and gentlemen, honored guests. My name is John Harris, President of the First Flight Society, and I'm happy to welcome you this 85th anniversary of the Wright brothers' flight, the first powered and controlled flight. Thank you for coming out in this cold weather. At least we don't have the 25-mile-an-hour wind that the Wright brothers had. We're a little fortunate this morning.
On behalf of the staff at Wright Brothers Memorial, we'd like to welcome you to the site of the world's first modern airport. Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, 85 years old today. We also like to extend a very warm and special welcome to the descendants of the men who glimpsed into the future over 85 years ago. The Etheridges, the Does, the Daniels, the Brinkleys, Moores, and the Takes. All these people are what we call local yokels here. But we're not only here to celebrate the event, but we're here to keep alive the hopes, the dreams, and the true spirit of the Wright brothers. It is a spirit as real as the sun that shines or the wind that blows.
The guest speaker for the 85th anniversary was James Harrington, the North Carolina Secretary of Transportation. On this solemn occasion, Harrington's message was most appropriate.
These past 85 years have indeed been exciting for air transportation. And I doubt that many of us can envision what the next 85 years will bring. Certainly I won't be back for that celebration, but my grandson might. And he too can look back to that windy day here at Kitty Hawk when the Wright brothers changed the face of history. Like us, my grandson, I hope, will salute those men of vision and genius. And like us, I hope that he too will marvel at what the human spirit can accomplish.
The celebration is sponsored each year by the First Flight Society, an organization of men and women committed to promoting aviation.
The history of the first flight, it was originally organized in 1926 as the Kill Devil Hills Memorial Association. It was founded by a group of businessmen and historians who were interested in preserving the history of the Wright brothers on the Outer Banks. It became the First Flight Society in 1966.
And since then, it's become an organization to each year commemorate what the Wright brothers did on December 17th, commemorate the first flight, and also to promote aviation and educate people with respect to aviation history by having fly-ins and having a program on Orville's birthday, which is also National Aviation Day, August 19th.
Our goals are education, Our goals are the preservation of the Wright history and the Wright memory on the Outer Banks, to promote aviation in general and see that people who have achieved significant firsts and made major contributions to aviation are recognized and honored, and their stories are told throughout the world.
The highlight of the annual celebration is a flyover by military and civilian aircraft. The flyover, featuring F-15 Tomcats and a B-1 bomber, began at 10:35, the same time the Wright brothers made aviation history 85 years ago. Each year since 1966, the First Flight Society pays tribute to one or more people who have accomplished a first in flight. This year's honorees were Louise Thaden and Blanche Noyes, the first women to win the Bendix Air Race in 1936. The portrait was unveiled by John Harris and Dr. Paul Garber, historian emeritus of the National Air and Space Museum in Washington, D.C.
I understand we're not here in person. But you're here in shell. I can see that.
Dr. Garber is held in very high esteem by the First Flight Society. During the ceremony, the First Flight Shrine was renamed the Dr. Paul E. Garber First Flight Shrine.
Dr. Garber could be described in layman's terms as Mr. Aviation Historian. He's made it possible for you and I to know about aviation pioneers and their accomplishments, and to be able to see the aircraft these pioneers accomplished their feats in. Without his love and effort, the Air and Space Museum in Washington would only be a fraction of what it is today. He saw Orville Wright fly the first Wright military flyer in 1909 in Fort Myers, Virginia. It was the first military aircraft. He was 9 years old at the time and decided at that moment that he wanted to fly more than anything else in life.
My father was an art dealer and had brought me to Washington because my father was trying to find some place for an art gallery. And in the newspaper, I saw a picture of what looked like a big box kite, and I like to make kites. But here was an enormous box kite. So I asked my father if I could go see that. He said, "No, we're going to an art gallery place. I want to get you to see that." My father expected me to follow him in the art business. I must have been quite a disappointment. And then going out to Fort Myers with the 50 cents my father gave me for car fare, because finally he let me go. And then as the trolley car came to a stop and then started off again, I heard this peculiar sound. And looking around, here in the far distance, at the far side of the drill field, came this huge box kite, but with two men in it, and with the propellers turning around. So much different from the kites that I made as a boy. Some nice gentleman just put his hands on me, on my shoulders, just as a courteous thing to do. And he was a reporter or a photographer or someone that had a pass. So when the airplane had landed, and everyone wanted to go close to it, but they were held back by the soldiers who had their guns horizontally in front of them. But this reporter, whoever he was, had a pass to get through and took me with him. So I got up close enough to see the airplane at close range and even to smell it. And I can remember that smell of that glorious oil out of the airplane engine.
We will return to this special edition of Beach TV in just a moment. Pick a peck of oysters, steamed or chilled and raw. Have a heap of seafood, backfin, lump, or claw. Shrimp or clams or lobster, the best you ever saw. Served in massive doses at Awful Arthur's Oyster Bar. You can go north to Alaska, south to the Pacific, west to the West Indies, or east to East Lake. But for fresh seafood at its finest, make no mistake, it's Awful Arthur's on the Beach Road.
Now, a newspaper for the North Beach. The North Beach Sun covers activities, events, and items of interest from southern shores to the Virginia line. Local residents watch for your copy in the mail. The North Beach Sun, news from the northern Outer Banks. The North Beach Sun, read all about it.
From the days of Blackbeard the pirate, offshore travelers have discovered Teach's Lair Marina and Hatteras to be the quickest and easiest route to the Gulf Stream. Teach's Lair Marina and Hatteras, a full-service center with gasoline, supplies, and 2 boat ramps. Teach's Lair Marina. Go fishing. Be happy.
History tells us, of course, that the Wright brothers made the first successful manned-powered flight. But despite all of this historical documentation, there's a group here on the Outer Banks of North Carolina that simply will not accept the fact that the Wright brothers achieved this incredible accomplishment. The organization is called the Man Will Never Fly Society. And to give you some idea of just how serious these folks are, their motto is, "Birds fly, men drink." The organization was formed 30 years ago. One of its co-founders is Dr. Ed North.
It's in honor of all the people from Kitty Hawk, the natives, as he used to call them, who said, Wilbur and Orville, it'll never get off the ground. So we drink to them. Most of these, if you talk to the folks there, probably 80-95% of them are people who are vitally interested in aviation. And they get a good kick out of being unserious one day of the year.
Oh, fill up your glasses and let's have a round for Wilbur and Orville, those men of renown, who taught us to fly without leaving the ground, and that's what we're doing tonight.
The Man Will Never Fly Society meets every year on the eve of the anniversary of that historic first flight. The members gather to poke a little good-natured fun at aviation and its pioneers.
It's hard to realize that almost 20 years ago, 3 semi-adults were fired into the morning sky by the nation's politicians and taxpayers. Several days later, these same 3 men, fighter pilots all, radioed back to Earth and said they were in the vicinity of the moon, much to NASA's amazement. How did you and I happen to view these historic moments on television? You saw it on television because it was planned, it was scripted, it was directed, and it was timed. Now, please understand that those people you saw on the moon were not real people. They were fighter pilots.
The important thing is to keep our minds empty and our glasses full.
The guest of honor, Apollo 11 astronaut Michael Collins, was introduced by newspaper columnist Larry Madry.
We thought it would be nice to recreate what you did on the Apollo 11 mission. And now we've got the moon here. This is green cheese. And, keep it going. And that's a green cheese. Green cheese. And we've got the cow. There's a cow. And then see, now we got Aldrin down here and Armstrong, is that right? My question, you see, here's the astronaut. My question is, where the hell are you? I'm surprised you didn't get it. I was the utter astronaut.
It was obvious that General Collins was very familiar with the Man Will Never Fly Society and its mission. He described the members as beachcombers, misfits, drunks, the flotsam and jetsam of society.
I don't feel I ever got full credit for what I contributed to the program. The New Yorker magazine came closest to it. They said Collins was the first man to expose himself twice in space, in the vacuum of space, excuse me. And, you know, ladies and gentlemen, you're looking at the world's first space flasher, and but anyway, you should know that NASA's public relations program was like a bikini. What it revealed was interesting, but what it concealed was crucial. And tonight I'd like to remove those two tiny pieces of cloth and let you see what really happened. First, the subject of astronauts and astronaut selection. The press thinks that we were all pilots, but there was a big difference between pilots and astronauts. Pilots break ground and fly into the wind. The most technical simulator we had was a 1964 Ford pickup truck. And one time they put Armstrong, Aldrin, and me inside it, and they welded both doors shut. And they left us in there for 8 days, which was supposedly the length of a trip to this supposed moon up there somewhere. I don't know where the mother is, but... I mean, the question I am most frequently asked is, how do you go to the bathroom in space? Well, I'll tell you, the same way you do in a 1964 Ford pickup truck. I mean, whew, I've heard of cars getting traded in when the ashtrays were full, but
Fill up your glasses and let's have a round for Wilbur and Mortal, those men of renown, who taught us to fly without leaving the ground, and that's what we're doing tonight.
We will return to this special edition of Beach TV in just a moment.
Kelly's Outer Banks Restaurant and Tavern. Dine and be entertained by atmosphere, taste, and enjoyment. Prepared for your pleasure. Kelly's Outer Banks Restaurant and Tavern, 158 Bypass, Nags Head.
Moyoc Furniture's expanded new location, Interiors at Duck, Schooners Ridge, is open and ready to serve your complete Outer Banks furniture needs. From crate to great, Interiors at Duck presents furniture selections from hundreds of furniture factories. Remember, selection, service, and serious savings from Moyoc. Now open. Moyoc Furniture's Interiors at Duck, Schooners Ridge, Highway 12, your Outer Banks Furniture headquarters.
The College of the Albemarle's Dare County Center is providing the residents of the Outer Banks with the opportunity to continue their education. A wide variety of courses are offered, ranging from real estate to wood carving. In addition, new curriculum courses such as the Hotel and Restaurant Management Program are being offered for the benefit of Outer Banks employers. The Dare County Commissioners and college administrators are currently leading a campaign to raise $10,000 to fund scholarships and purchase much-needed new equipment. And construction will begin this fall on a 7,000 square foot addition. Exciting things are happening at the College of the Albemarle's Dare County Center. Be a part of it. Call the center at 473-2264.
Come home to Sam and Omi's, long a legend when it comes to down-home Outer Banks cooking. Sam and Omi's invites you to a breakfast, lunch, or dinner dedicated to the proposition that all good cooking comes from Sam and Omi's in the Outer Banks tradition. Everybody should believe in something. I believe I'll go to Sam and Omi's. Sam and Omi's, Nag's Head.
It's a must.
Hello, I'm Sammy Moore, the host of Offshore with Sammy Moore. Watch for my new show premiering March 27th. 31 weeks, 3 times a day, featuring all the action. Offshore billfish release tournaments and the incomparable surf fishing along the coast of North Carolina. Right here on Beach TV. That's Offshore with Sammy Moore. March 27th. Go fishing. Be happy.
The Wright Brothers Museum opened in 1960, 28 years ago. An average of 500,000 people each year visit the Wright Brothers Museum. And with the growing popularity of the Outer Banks of North Carolina, that number is bound to increase. Quite frankly, the museum must be enlarged.
The interpretive prospectus, which is the planning document for the development of Wright Brothers currently, calls for an addition of about 13,000 square feet addition to this facility.
The expansion program would carry a price tag of between $2 and $3 million. However, as a result of a tight federal budget, funding could be a serious problem.
The project, once it's funded, would probably all be done at one time. It would include the addition of an audiovisual theater and an addition to the flight room here, which would culminate in a room designed to hold both the glider and the flyer and to present these replicas in sequential fashion to the public in terms of the story of the development of flight.
We went in to the federal budget as a line item through the help of Congressman Jones this last year, and it was cut. But we definitely have his support. He's been very supportive, and it will go in again in the future. Hopefully we will be successful. If not, we will have a fundraising project to raise the money.
But you've got to realize that the Wright Brothers National Memorial is sacred ground, that in the course of mankind there are a handful of events which serve as milestones in history. Next to the development of the wheel, the first successful power-controlled flight here at Kitty Hawk would probably be the next most important event. And anything that we do here should strive to meet that type of significance.
Standing here on this historical ground, it is difficult to comprehend that so much has been accomplished in such a short period of time. In just 85 years, we've gone from first flight to a lunar landing mission, and it's all been accomplished in the lifetime of Dr. Paul Garber.
It's a wonderful thing to try to realize that the development of the airplane has occurred within my lifetime.
And now in the single lifetime of a man like Paul Garber, who works at the Air and Space Museum of the Smithsonian in Washington, in his single lifetime, we've seen trip lengths go from 120 feet all the way to the moon and even beyond. We've seen speeds go from a few miles an hour to 25,000 miles an hour. So the Wright brothers really started us on that road, and I think their contribution was all important.
I read something recently where a historian back in the early 1900s was writing that no one really knew what Columbus's discovery meant and really how far it would advance civilization and what it would mean in time to come. And he said the Wright brothers achieve it as much the same way. We can tell it's going to be a great thing, but it's really hard to envision where it's going to take us in the future. But I'm sure it's going to be far beyond.
You know, you take the first 12-second flight, and now, 85 years later, we can go to the moon and beyond. It boggles my mind to think that man's technological expertise has advanced that far in just that short period of time. You know, you take ships of sea, the sailing ships and the old merchant ships are still plying the ocean. There's no new technology in those forms of transportation as there is in aviation.
Where do we go from here? What is the future of aviation? What great achievements will our children and their children witness during the next 85 years?
Well, the next step in our space program, I think, logically would be a trip to the planet Mars. I think humankind will eventually just continue away from the surface of this planet and go out throughout the solar system. And if you believe that, well, then Mars is certainly the next logical stepping stone.
The possibilities are tremendous.
The future is bright.
Yes, it's bright because the past has been so wonderful.
We will return to this special edition of Beach TV in just a moment. The Outer Banks of North Carolina is a paradise of pleasure.
Surfing,
Sailing,
swimming,
fishing,
or just a quiet walk on the beach.
This beautiful area on the Atlantic Ocean is also rich in history. The Lost Colony on Roanoke Island.
The Wright Brothers Memorial in Kill Devil Hills.
Visit the Outer Banks of North Carolina. It will be the experience of a lifetime.
For further information, call or write the Outer Banks Chamber of Commerce or the Dare County Tourist Bureau.
Avoid the first-year bath. Come clean at Bobby Tolson Automotive. It makes good sense to save dollars with the hand-picked selection of clean late-model cars, trucks, and four-wheel drives at Bobby Tolson Automotive. Choose from the largest transportation inventory on the Outer Banks, backed by the Bobby Tolson reputation for dependability. Daily, weekly, and monthly rental from Dollar Rent-A-Car and custom automotive leasing available at Bobby Tolson's.
Why buy new and lose?
Buy new and cruise.
Bobby Tolson Automotive, Main Highway, Manteo.
In the olden days, cleaning your carpet was a little bit like turning it into a swamp. But now Milliken Place presents the Capture Cleaning System. Capture! This moist powder is safe and easy to use. Just sprinkle it on, brush it in, and vacuum up the soil. No wetting, no downtime, no mess. Capture, available at A&B Carpets, Manteo, and Southern Shores.
Hello, I'm Kathy Simons.
And I'm Charles Hardig, inviting you to join us on Beach TV on Channel 12.
We'll be covering the sights and sounds of the Outer Banks of North Carolina.
Beach TV can be seen on Outer Banks Cablevision Channel 12 at 6:30 and 11:30 in the morning, and again at 6 and 11 in the evening. Join us, won't you? The memorial here at Kill Devil Hills is a most appropriate tribute to the genius and dedication of Orville and Wilbur Wright. But it's also a tribute to the true spirit of man and man's never-ending quest to achieve the unachievable. In a sense, the passing of the spirit from Orville and Wilbur Wright to the men and women who followed in their footsteps just might be their greatest legacy.